Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday. I'm your host, Tajah, the Mindset Coach. So I hope you guys are relaxed because we're about to get on a hot topic, but a needed topic. It's all about the truth about submissive. So ladies, tonight I have with me the lovely Tamesha and Berneta, and I want you guys to introduce yourselves. So go ahead, Tamesha.
Good evening. My name is Tamesha Keaton, actually Fields-Keeton, and I'll talk about that a little later. And I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm a national sales manager and been doing sales for over 20 years.
Okay, and how long have you been married?
I have been married, this time I've been married 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but the time before that, it was for 15 and a half, so.
Okay, and Miss Berneta?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Berneta Churchill. I live in the beautiful state of Georgia in Metro Atlanta. I have been married for 10 years. I have 2 beautiful children, and I'm so excited to be with you this evening.
Yes, and we're excited to have you both. So let's get right into it, ladies. So I picked you two, of course, because of your outstanding personalities, right? But also because of your career paths and being successful. As we talk about this conversation about being submissive, specifically us Black women, do you ever find that your personalities, along with the career paths you've chosen, have ever created complications for you finding this spouse? Or does it even still come up sometimes where you have to say, all right, I'm home now, I got to take the boss hat off? How do you find yourselves in these situations when it is in regard to being submissive?
Well, I'll start, Berneta, if you're fine with that. You know, for me, I have a very, very strong personality. I failed to mention I'm one of 15 children. So being one of 15, you have to constantly battle for your place. And so in doing that, my parents taught us to be very strong, very independent, and, you know, go to college, be a mover and a shaker, do what you are supposed to do. But they also, while I'm going through all of this, I see that my mother, because my parents were married, you know, over 50 years. So I see my mother being very powerful, yet submissive to my father. Mm. She was managing the home. She was doing, you know, all of these things. And she eventually started working outside the home. But my mom was always submissive to my father. She would say, well, let's see what your dad says. We got to talk to your dad. Well, we're going to run this by your dad. And there would be days I'd be like, why you got to talk to him? Let's just making decisions. But as I've grown up and I've matured and I have my own career and things like that, I realize, you know, I can be the independent, dominant woman when I'm out in my career, but I can't dominate my home. And the reason I say that is because my husband leads our home. Mm-hmm. So regardless of how much money I make or anything like that, when I come home, I know that I have to submit. And women tend to not like that word submit because it feels like you're losing part of yourself. But in reality, you're gaining who you are as a woman. You're not letting anything go. And so it helps you to be able to, you know, maintain who you are, but yet your husband spoils you because he knows she's going to be right there. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, or at least I do.
But that's how you feel. I love it. I've never heard someone say that they take it as a game, but this is the beauty about this topic, right? Let's get to the truth about being submissive, you know, amongst the three of us. So what about you, Berneta?
I mean, yes to everything Tamesha has said. When you think of submission, it is an act, it's an action, and it's to relinquish power to someone in authority. And sometimes there has to be a hierarchy of someone. And in my home as well, it's my husband. Just by default of him being a man, he has been called to lead the house. That's not always an easy position, even for him. So I'm not going to complicate that by fighting him on his decisions when it comes to leading our household. One, because I know he has everyone's best interest in mind, especially everyone in my home. All the decisions are for his best interest and our best interest together as a unit. We want the same things. We're a team. We're working together. That's not always the case when you're out in the world. And as Tamesha said, sometimes you have to fight for your pigs, fight for your position. That's because the people that you may be working with, they don't have your best interest at heart, or you don't have the same goals or the same focus or the same end game. But when I'm home, when my doors closed, I know my husband has me, I have him, and we're working together as a team to make this thing work.
I love that, and I think that's the key point. See, you even started with saying how it's an action, right? And see, that's where I want to go with the truth about being submissive, because when it's said to us as Black women, it's said in a manner of we're not easily controlled, we're not easily manipulated, we're not pushovers, right? And I'm going to accept all of that. You're right, not happening. However, the act of being submissive is a willingness to be that. That's different. That's completely different. It changes the connotation to the word, right? Now I can be receptive to someone saying submissive when I understand the definition, the true understanding of it, but not the way it gets spent when it's directed at us. And so that is the key. When you're in your home, you want to be at peace. You don't want to have to make all the decisions. You don't want to be the boss. If you can finally, like one of my friends in the earlier episode said, rest your shoulders, right? Put your hair down. For me, it's just gonna stay up, but you know what I mean, right? It's so important for us to sometimes just go to the basics. Look up these words and find out what they mean so you can find your true self, like Tamesha said, and now you can gain all the power and all the beauty that is you as a Black woman, opposed to just hearing something and just feeling like, oh, I'm not doing that. I can't be controlled, or I won't be controlled, and that's not even the meaning. So I think that's so important. Now, what do you feel about your careers when you were finding your husbands? Did this ever play a role, like in the people that you were, dating through? Was it, oh no, she's a high level executive, or she's this and that? Were you having trouble with that as being, the issue with why they were saying maybe you wouldn't be submissive or it wouldn't work because you were, distinguished?
I'll start if it's okay. Yeah. I definitely had that problem. This is my first marriage, and I got married later in life. So I was, totally well established. I had my own home, my own car. I was in my career, not just a job. I was in my career path. I had, no children. So for me, it was really difficult to find someone who would let me still be me without them taking over my life, because again, I was older in life. They were also older. So they were established as well. But what they wanted was a woman who would come in and cook and clean and do all those things. And I never had to do that because it was just me. So there were still some things that I wanted to accomplish. I during that time I got married, and the time I got married in that year, I got married and I finished my PhD. Wow. So I had to have someone who was supportive of that. Because again, he knew the end game. He knew that in that moment he had to submit because I was on a path, on a trajectory. Right. But he had to submit to my timing when it came to not being able to give him a lot of time. Because let's be clear, men have to submit to it sometime based on what you're doing. So he had to submit to my time as well. But I found that all men won't do that. They want to command your attention all the time. And I just was not in that place, not then. And, it certainly changed too, from dating to boyfriend to husband,
Right.
that certainly plays a role in what I'm going or how I'm going to submit to as well.
Mm-hmm. What were you going to say, Tamesha?
I think, for me, I've been, I'm not going to say unfortunate, I'm going to say fortunate to have, I got married young and to my daughter's father, and we were married for 15 and a half years, and I wasn't established. I was young, and, I was just trying to find my way through.
Mm-hmm.
But I really pulled a lot on the things that I was taught growing up, how to be a wife and things like that. So I found myself submitting, and what I thought was submitting, but I was handing over my power to things that were not conducive for our growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would tell any young woman that is starting out. Don't give yourself away to a point that you're not who you are. You're becoming just what he wants you to be. That's not submission.
Right.
And I think that's where young people, when they first start out, they mess up. Mm-hmm. Had I stood stronger and not, went for all the foolishness necessarily, then I think the path could have been different. Because submission does not mean that you just hand over your power and you say, right. Oh, honey, whatever you want to do, that's not submission. And I want to make certain that our audience understands that that's not what submission is.
Right.
Submission means that, it's a lot about trust. I can trust this man, that he's going to make sure our bills are paid. He's going to make sure that, like, Brianna said, making sure that our best interest for our home is taken care of. But if you have a knucklehead that's out there doing the wrong thing, you have to stand up and then say, wait. I'm going to submit to you, but I can't follow you down a path that's detrimental to our family.
Right.
And I don't know. I see a lot of young women now at times that will just put up with anything. Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Like, no, where's your value?
Well, sometimes even in that, right, with being submissive, what did you say first, right? You said about gaining, right? Now you get your full essence of who you are. Well, that has to start with knowing who you are, right? Because see, submissive is tied into that too, because see, what did our moms all tell us, right? If you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. And if you don't know who you are, best believe you get yourself in some real tricky situations where a person will have you controlled, believing that is submission. You understand? So sometimes in these young marriages where I would say I don't know that we got married really young, but we were together very young, right? We met when I was 21. Guys, I just turned 34 last week. Yeah, I'm getting old, people. But we have been together a lot longer than being married, right? This is coming up on, matter of fact, next week will be our 4th year married. And I say that to say, I knew even in those years we loved each other, right? We were young. So it was a lot of me learning who I was, him learning who he is. And in that, you guys know, you know me, I can be tricky, you know what I mean? To say the least. I'm honest. I'm a lot, but I take that with pride, right? But I also know that also means Taj being accountable and understanding that, like you said, I can't run my house, right? Like I run outside or I lead teams. And this has always been the case, even when I was in high school playing sports. So I have to understand when that's needed and when it's not. Like Berneta said, there are going to be times where right now I'm getting my PhD. And so I can't do everything you want me to do on that time frame. right? You have to understand. And I was never okay with giving anyone all my time. I think my mom did a very good job in that, meaning in showing that it's okay to measure your accessibility to people, right? And when people love you, they will understand that. It shouldn't be a pressure. You shouldn't feel as if you gotta hold your phone every 5 seconds because he's gonna call or she's gonna call. That's, again, control, people, right? We're talking about the willingness to let someone lead. So as we move into this, I wanna ask you two, do you think faith plays a role in us as Black women being submissive and understanding what that means?
Ooh, gosh.
Yeah, we're gonna get touchy now.
Yes. Because, I'll refer back to my prior marriage. I was being submissive, and like I said, it felt like I thought I was being submissive. I'm, doing everything, and then I realized, he's not leading and guiding us on the right trajectory here. Mm-hmm. And so when I was like, okay, I battled for 2 years before filing for a divorce, because my grandparents had been married for 60 years. My parents had been married at that time 45 years. There was just not divorce that happens in our family. So right. I was like, oh my God, can I get a divorce? Is it right? Uh-huh. And so I battled with that. But then I realized that because he was not following the right order, blessings were not flowing the way they were supposed to flow.
That part.
So I was not receiving the blessings because I had this man here. And God is not a God that is out of order. God is a God of order. Uh-huh. And if you believe in that and you have that faith, you know that it's got to go through my husband uh-huh. before it get to me. And so I'm sitting back and I'm like, oh my gosh, why is this not happening? Why is this not happening? And then finally I realized he's blocking it. And I went to my pastor and I'm like, I want a divorce. And he was like, are you serious? I'm like, yes, he's blocking my blessings. And as God is my witness, after we got a divorce, my career took off. I got a $20,000 a year raise that year. Those blessings were being blocked because he was not in order and doing what he was supposed to be doing. So in getting back to submission, that man has to make sure that he is adhering to the role of the head of the house.
Right.
And that he takes that role serious. And if he's doing what he's supposed to do, the blessings are automatically going to come. And you can have that faith to know my man's got us, God has got us.
That's right.
Hallelujah. You brought the word, didn't you?
Yeah. You go ahead and bring it in, Berneta. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, you already know from a Christian standpoint, the Bible says, wives, submit to your husbands because the husband is the head, just as Christ is the head of the church. When we think about this, again, Taj, you said it so eloquently that when we hear that word submit, it's like we're losing ourselves, we're losing power. We don't want to give that up. But Christ is the head of the church because he loves the church. There's nothing that he's going to do bad to demolish his people or to demolish the church. And that, remember I said earlier that the man has a hard job being the head, but he has to be confident and know that this is what he was called to do. And he has to stand up and do it right. Because Tamesha, you said it, we can't follow a knucklehead. That's just not going to work. There is order that has to be done, because if not, we don't follow that divine order, that divine path, we're going to all suffer, not just the women, but the men as well. Willingness, you have to be willing to follow a man, but that man also has to know and understand his faith, his religion, albeit Muslim or Christianity, what have you, and the woman be willing to follow him. I tell my husband, I'll follow you if you follow God. You already know. Now, if you're doing something outside of that, don't expect me to follow that, because that's not going to bring us any benefit. There's not going to be a reward in that. Our reward is staying on that true faith, that true path of life. So
that's right.
Yeah. And that husband, that leader, has to respect his wife. I tell people all the time, tell young women, God did not call you to be a hoe and a housewife.
Hello. You better say it again. Say that again. Say it again.
God did not call us to be a hoe and a housewife. I'm not here just to cook and clean and wash and all of that and, sex you down in the bed and then there's nothing left for me.
Mm-hmm.
So we as women have to understand, and our husbands has to understand and respect us. So that all plays into the submission part of it.
Right.
Some women feel like, well, I'm cooking for him, I'm cleaning, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and he just doesn't. Well, is he respecting you?
Right.
Because if he respects you, then all of those things will not feel like they're a burden to you.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be joy in it. And he'll be like, oh, baby, let me help you do this. Baby, we both working. We got this. We both got to get in here and do this together. So it's things like that. It's not like it was, like my mom didn't start working until I was in the 8th grade. She was a straight homemaker. And then she went outside the home and started working. And so she didn't have anything to do but care for the kids, take care of the home. That was her job.
Right.
We now have careers outside of our homes.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those domestic duties still have to be done when we over here on our
everything. Look, all of it has to be done, right? And I just want to pinpoint on 2 things that you both said that I thought were crucial. And I'll start with you, Berneta, when you said, the man has to be willing, right? Just like the woman. And I think that's the point that gets missed. We don't talk about how the man, even though what God has ordained for them, right, to be the head of the household and the pressure that comes with that, but they have to be willing to lead. You have to make sure that you find the right suitor to do those things, because every man might not want to lead, right? Mm-hmm. You have to find the one that's going to lead for you. Because what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. And then, just like you said, Tamesha, the reason also why that relationship, that marriage wasn't good and those blessings were blocked was because he was out of focus. You were out of alignment because you're trying to chase something that wasn't for you to be chasing, right? So now, just like Berneta said, if he's not doing his part, it messes up everybody, right? The wife, the kids, and somebody has to now become the pilot, right? Somebody now has to say, hey, if you don't pull it together, I got to jump ship. And see, that's what you tapped into. And see, that's why your blessings came, because now you're doing and you're living in alignment. And sometimes it's just that matchup doesn't work, and that's okay. But you have to know yourself. And that's the thing that women, we have to do a better job. And I want to say, for me, becoming a mom, I think a lot of women lose themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't come into something as like Berneta, you did, where you already have your career, you already have your home, you have everything established. I'm very much not in that role when we got together, right? I was 21. I was just about to graduate undergrad. Tamesha, you say you weren't. So we're pretty much working and building this thing together. And in that, we're also growing up. I have to learn who Tajah is becoming. And, I think that plays a big role, because I watched something different than Tamesha described. I watched something where my mom worked hard, and I saw her do most of it on her own. So I had this demeanor where I I can do it on my own, right? I need to want you to be here. I don't have to have you here. I need to want that to happen. And then I had to learn how that's not always conducive in your marriage or any relationship, right? You can't walk around like, I'm good. That's something that, you know, the women who hear submissive aren't wanting it, right? I'm not going to be controlled. But we got to go back to those definitions, people. We have to learn these things. So now I'm going to flip over and say why I asked about faith is because, you know, you all know I'm Muslim. And in my faith, it is about the man being the head of the house. Of course, no different from the Bible or the Torah or any other religion, right? Where the man leads. But the woman is called in, you know, the Quran, Al-Nisa is the neck. And what does that mean for a head, right? That means support, because this head can't do anything without this neck, right? So we are and must be aligned. We must be on the same team. We must be working together. And when you know that, everything does work. Of course, you're going to have your moments. Every marriage, every relationship has them. But when you know the ultimate end goal is for the betterment of the house, it's easy to submit to that. It's easy to be willing to let him lead, right? And then, Berneta, like you said, in the moments where you have to lead, right? Because marriages comes with time. Everyone plays a role, but it's about understanding that, being accepting to that, and everyone on the team being receptive to that. So now as we move into this next section, I want to know, why do you think Black women, of all women, why do we get labeled with not being submissive? What is it that we possess that makes men, especially our men, right? Our Black men say, oh, they just won't submit. Why is it us opposed to any other race? What do you think that is about?
I think generationally things have changed.
Okay.
Especially with our young men. And the more and more you move away from being the man that you're supposed to be, the less and less you're going to see your women as being valuable. So the reason that I say that is because over time, what's happened to our Black men? They have more and more been incarcerated and taken away, taken out of the home and away from their children. And it hasn't been cool to be a Black dad. But I think that those times are changing, where Black men are now saying, wait a minute, this is my family. I need to fight for this. Whereas I think, therefore, you know, a couple of generations, we were kind of losing that pride, right, of what it meant. And so I think that when the man got out of order, the woman got out of order. Because what did she do? I'm now having, because you're not here, I got to raise these kids by myself. I got to work and make this money by myself. I got to do all these things by myself. And I'll be darned if some other man going to come in here and try to tell me what I need to do, because I'm now having to do it all by myself.
Right.
So I think that society impacted our Black families. I was very unique, you know, among a lot of my Black friends, because I grew up with my mother and father. Okay. I didn't know any different. I grew up with my grandparents. Didn't know any different. As I matured and grew in my career, I started to realize, wait a minute, I'm kind of unique in this. Right. Because I had friends that were like, oh, I don't know who my dad is. Or even friends that would tell me, oh, I never speak to my mother. I couldn't imagine that. Right. Wasn't my world. Yes. I can agree with that. You're very much a unicorn. Yeah. And so, you know, even when I married my husband currently, and I just prayed about it. I'm like, God, you know me. You know my heart. You know where I come from. You have got to take control of this, because apparently I'm doing this wrong. And so when I met my husband, I was like, wow, he seems very grounded. And so as it turns out, his parents have been married for 64 years. Wow. They're 81 and 84.
Mm.
And when I tell you, just, being around them and being in their presence and seeing how strong his mom is, but yet how submissive she is still to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And how they just are madly still in love with one another, and all of that. I'm like, wow, that's what we are missing in our Black communities, all over the world.
Right.
It's like, we need this.
Mm-hmm.
And when our Black men stand up and say, you know what, I'm gonna take care of my home, I'm gonna take care of my Black woman, then it becomes easier, because you again have that faith, and I can submit to him.
That's right.
Because he got my back.
Period.
I like when you talked about generations, but let's take it further back, because
girl, I just want to go there, but go ahead.
Let's go all the way back to slavery. Let's get it out there.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, get real on the show now.
Because that is really sometimes still the mentality of our men.
Yes.
We are still mentally enslaved, and because they were treated that way, and I say that, but all Black people were, let's be honest, but they need something to control. Mm-hmm. And the easiest thing to them is the Black woman. Mm-hmm. So I think it's been placed upon us by some men who do not understand how to have a woman submit to them. And so that really turns us off, because they try to force it upon us, rather than allowing us to do it willingly. And when we don't do it willingly, that's when things become chaotic. It's I'm going to make you do it, because I can't make the white man do it. I can't make the white man submit. I may or may not be able to make the white woman submit. Damn sure can't make another Black man submit. But the easiest one will be a Black woman. So they use that term erroneously. And then we take it on, and now we hate it. We don't want to submit, because we don't understand that it's something that's going to be better, because they make it such a negative term. So that's that far.
Yeah. And girl, you said it. You said it. It goes all the way back to the enslavement and the way that our Black men were treated and demoralized and dehumanized. And it's just, that abuse tends to perpetuate itself on whatever they could find. Even, sometime with the children, it would be, abuse happening to children. And so it all plays a role. Like I said, it's an order.
Right.
And we have to make certain that we don't lose ourselves, but at the same time, we're in that order that we're supposed to be in for the greatest amount of success and happiness. Because truly there's happiness and peace in this.
Yes.
It's not to be a burden. Submission is never to be a burden. It's to bring joy and happiness to your life. Because I don't want to have the things on my head that my husband has to have on his head every day.
Right. In front of your computer that's at home. Like, once I'm done with this assignment, I'm done for the day, right? He got the house. And, I have the kids or whatever. And that's really what you want. And I just want to even go back to the piece that you both were talking about, where, it goes as far back as slavery. And, me being younger, I don't necessarily think about that portion, right? But I think about now what they're doing to us as a culture, always pitting, I should say, us up against one another, right? It's always going to be Black women versus Black men. Anything to keep us at these lengths, because now our men are going to school and are getting educated, are becoming top athletes, actors, whatever you want to say about them, right? So what I mean is, everyone's not going to prison anymore. Not saying that it's still not an alarming rate to other cultures, for sure.
Come on now.
What'd you say?
It's cool to be Black. It's cool to be Black.
Exactly. And now, even looking successful in Black without having associated talent, right? You can just be smart. And so they need something to keep us pitted so that the homes stay broken, right? The focus is lost. And so I think it's so important that we make sure that we understand our value. We understand what these words mean. We understand what society is doing because they don't want the greatness to shine. I mean, it was a reason why you keep an entire culture out of a loop with things, right? It was a reason for that, because if we can win, if we can stay together, we are beyond powerful, right? We can do anything, because we were in a time with slavery where everything was supposed to stop, right? We were not supposed to break free of that. So now, what's the new challenge? Don't let them continue to work together. Don't let them continue to build. Don't let them continue to be competitive with us, right? So we have to work together. We have to talk to one another better. We have to understand, because just as much as we didn't see, or some of us, right, Tamesha, you were a unicorn, but a lot of us didn't see that co-parenting, that means the men didn't see it either. So we're asking them to replicate something that they didn't know either. So back to what Berneta said, that's hard, very hard. So they have to submit to us in a way of being willing to express these feelings, being willing to tell us they don't know what that thing is, right? But they're going to try their hardest for you and those children. So I think submissive just needs to be broken down. We need to understand it. We need to take away the negative connotation and bring it back, right? So to our women that are watching, understand who you are. Know who you are. Take value in who you are. Be confident in that, right? No, you will not be controlled. No, you will not be manipulated, but you will be heard. You will be understood, and you will be loved and respected. And to our men, learn how to state your claim, but also be receptive to understanding that she has a voice too, that she wants to build with you, that she wants to be Al-Nisa, for me being Muslim. She wants to be the neck to your head, so you can be supported in everything that you wish for this family to achieve. So in the essence, you have to work together. We have to be smarter. We have to be stronger, and we have to love each other. So submissiveness is about being willing to submit. And if we even go back into history, right? This is the part I wanted. I knew I was going somewhere with the history part. When you think of all the times before when they talk about kings and queens, right? What do people do? They bow down, don't they? That's a sign of respect in almost every culture, in almost every class of people. So where did we get the chance to spin submissiveness? But the only time I think it comes that way is when it's directed at us. In any other form, it's a valued type of trait, right? In karate, in certain matches, that's what you do, right? That is not deemed as being beneath or lower than. It is a sign of respect. So we just really need to tap into understanding each other, understanding what words mean. So it's going back to the basics. You know how I do as the mindset coach. Go back to the basics and tap into who you are. Don't let anyone mistake who you are. And that's why you understand who you are. So to young women, young men, older women, older men, be submissive, be receptive, be loving and nurturing, and you will win. So that's it for Talk to Me Tuesday. Good night, everyone.